In the shadows of America's cities, a war has been raging for decades. A war not fought by armies, but by street soldiers. A war that has claimed tens of thousands of lives and torn apart entire communities. This is the true story of Hispanic gang rivalries, a tale of violence, loyalty, and survival that began in the barrios of Los Angeles and spread like wildfire across 2 continents. This is a story that starts in the City of Angels, but leads straight to hell. The year is 1980. Los Angeles is a powder keg of gang violence. The streets are controlled by established Mexican gangs, and a new wave of immigrants is arriving from Central America, fleeing a brutal civil war in El Salvador. These young Salvadorans find themselves in a hostile new world, targeted by existing gangs, with nowhere to turn for protection. In the Pico Union neighborhood, a group of Salvadoran teenagers decides to fight back. They form their own gang for protection. They call themselves Mara Salvatrucha, Mara meaning gang, Salva for Salvador, Trucha street smarts. They add the number 13, representing the 13th letter of the alphabet, M, for Mexican Mafia, the prison gang that would later control them. MS-13 is born not as a criminal empire, but as a survival mechanism. But survival in the streets of Los Angeles requires violence. And MS-13 quickly earns a reputation for being more brutal than any gang that came before them. Their weapon of choice? The machete. A tool from their homeland, now an instrument of terror. While other gangs used guns, MS-13 used blades, making their violence personal, intimate, and horrifying. But MS-13 wasn't the first Hispanic gang to dominate Los Angeles. 20 years earlier, in the 1960s, another gang was born in the Rampart district. Young Mexican Americans and immigrant youths, rejected by existing Hispanic gangs, formed their own crew. They called themselves the 18th Street Gang, named after the street where they claimed their territory. 18th Street was different. While other gangs only accepted members of Mexican descent, 18th Street opened its doors to all races and nationalities. They were among the first multiracial, multi-ethnic gangs in Los Angeles. This strategy made them powerful, very powerful. By the 1980s, 18th Street had grown to become one of the largest street gangs in the United States, with tens of thousands of members across hundreds of separate cliques. They controlled vast territories, ran drug operations, and answered to the Mexican Mafia, the prison gang that ruled all Southern California Hispanic gangs with an iron fist. Around 1989, a fight broke out. The cause? A girl. An MS-13 member and an 18th Street member were rivals for her affection. The confrontation escalated. Shots were fired. An MS-13 gangster lay dead in the street. In gang culture, there is only one response to bloodshed: more bloodshed. MS-13 retaliated. 18th Street struck back. The cycle of violence had begun, and it would never stop. The rivalry between MS-13 and 18th Street became one of the most vicious gang wars in American history. Drive-by shootings, machete attacks, murders of rival gang members and their families. The streets of Los Angeles ran red with blood. But the violence in Los Angeles was only the beginning. Because in the 1990s, the United States government made a decision that would export this gang war to an entirely different continent. In the late 1990s, under President Bill Clinton's immigration crackdown, the United States began deporting foreign-born residents convicted of crimes. Thousands of gang members, MS-13, 18th Street, and others, were sent back to their countries of origin: El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala, the northern triangle of Central America. These deportees arrived in countries devastated by civil war, poverty, and corruption. The state institutions were gutted. Law enforcement was weak, and these young men, covered in tattoos, wearing baggy clothes, brought with them something their homelands had never seen before: American gang culture. They brought urban warfare tactics. They brought criminal networks learned in American prisons. They brought the rivalry between MS-13 and 18th Street. And they found an endless supply of recruits, a generation of jobless young people with no future, desperate for belonging and power. The gangs exploded across Central America. What had been small, disorganized neighborhood gangs became sophisticated criminal organizations. MS-13 and 18th Street, now called Barrio 18 in Central America, waged war for control of entire countries. By 2015, El Salvador had the highest murder rate in the world. The violence rivaled the bloodiest days of the Civil War. Honduras and Guatemala weren't far behind. The Northern Triangle became the most dangerous region on Earth that wasn't an active war zone. Families fled by the thousands, seeking asylum in the United States, the very country that had exported the gangs in the first place. 75% of migrants arriving at the southern U.S. border came from these three countries, running from the violence of MS-13 and Barrio 18. The gangs controlled entire neighborhoods through extortion. Bus drivers, shopkeepers, families, everyone had to pay rent or face death. Those who refused were murdered. Those who cooperated were trapped. There was no escape, and the bodies piled up. During a brief truce negotiated by the Salvadoran government in 2012, the murder rate dropped. But investigators later discovered the truth. The gangs hadn't stopped killing. They had just gotten better at hiding the bodies. They dug clandestine graves, dismembered corpses to fit in smaller holes, and stabbed bodies to release gases so decomposition would leave smaller cavities. They turned murder into a science. Governments fought back with iron fist policies, mano dura, mass arrests, militarized police, prisons packed beyond capacity with gang members. In El Salvador, rival gang members from MS-13 and Barrio 18 were forced to share the same cells, a psychological warfare tactic designed to break them. In 2022, El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele declared a war against gangs, suspending constitutional rights and arresting over 75,000 suspected gang members. The murder rate plummeted. But human rights organizations warned of mass violations, innocent people swept up in the dragnet, and a police state built on fear. In the United States, the FBI, ATF, and IC launched massive operations against MS-13 and 18th Street. Hundreds of arrests, life sentences. In 2025, the Trump administration designated both gangs as foreign terrorist organizations, placing them alongside international cartels and terror groups. But behind MS-13 and 18th Street stands an even more powerful force, the Mexican Mafia. Known as La M, this prison gang was founded in 1957 in California's prisons. With only 350 to 500 official members, the Mexican Mafia controls every Hispanic street gang in Southern California. Their reach is absolute. MS-13, 18th Street, and thousands of other gangs answer to La M. In prison, inmates are recruited based on race, not street affiliation. And the Mexican Mafia's rules are simple: obey or die. The Mexican Mafia controls the Serenos, Southern California gangs marked by the number 13. Their rivals are the Norteños, Northern California gangs aligned with Nuestra Familia, marked by the number 14. This rivalry, born in California's prisons in the 1960s, has claimed countless lives. Serenos and Norteños cannot even be in the same prison yard without violence erupting. The Mexican Mafia operates on a blood oath: blood in, blood out. To join, you must kill. To leave, you must die. There is no retirement, no escape. La M comes first, before family, before God, before everything. The statistics are staggering. Tens of thousands dead, hundreds of thousands displaced, entire generations lost to violence, incarceration, and fear. But behind every statistic is a human being: a son, a daughter, a mother, a father. Many gang members join as children, recruited on their way to school, forced to choose between joining or dying. The initiation is brutal: beaten for 13 seconds, then ordered to commit murder. Large tattoos brand them for life, making it impossible to leave even if they wanted to. One former MS-13 member, deported from the United States at age 24, claimed to have committed 31 murders. When he tried to leave the gang, they tried to kill him. He became an informant, leading police to 105 arrests and 20 murder victims buried in clandestine graves. But unlike in the United States, El Salvador offers no witness protection. He lives alone, hunted, waiting for the day the gang finds him. Today, the war continues. MS-13 and 18th Street still battle for territory in Los Angeles, across the United States and throughout Central America. The Mexican Mafia still pulls the strings from behind prison walls. And young people with no opportunities and no hope continue to be drawn into the cycle of violence. This is not just a story about gangs. It's a story about poverty, immigration, failed policies, and the human cost of violence. It's a story about how a problem created in one country can devastate another. It's a story about how easy it is to start a war and how impossible it is to end one. The streets remember, the blood doesn't wash away, and the war goes on. If you found this documentary informative, please hit the like button, leave a comment with your thoughts, share this video to spread awareness, and subscribe for more true crime documentaries. Thank you for watching.